Imagine finally buying your dream home. A beautiful house in one of the safest neighborhoods in America. Tree-lined streets, excellent schools, friendly neighbors. The perfect place to raise a family. Then, just days after signing the papers, a letter arrives in your mailbox. At first it seems strange, then unsettling, then terrifying. The writer claims they've been watching the house for years. They know details about your family. They know your children's names. They know where they sleep. And they end the letter with a chilling signature. The Watcher. Over the next several years, more letters arrive. The stalker is never identified. No arrests are made. And the mystery becomes one of the most bizarre, unsolved cases in modern American history. Who was watching the house? How did they know so much? And why has the mystery never been solved? Tonight, we're opening the case file on the Watcher letters. And the deeper you go, the stranger it becomes. Welcome back to LastKnown. On this channel, we investigate real mysteries, unexplained crimes, and disturbing cases that continue to haunt victims and investigators alike. Tonight's story doesn't begin in a dark alley or an abandoned building. It begins in one of the wealthiest and safest towns in America, a place where families move to escape danger, not become the target of it. But in 2014, one New Jersey family discovered that sometimes the most terrifying threats are hiding right next door, and it all started with a single letter.
In June 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus purchased a 6-bedroom Dutch colonial home located at 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. The purchase price was approximately $1.3 million. For the Broaddus family, it was the culmination of years of hard work. Westfield was considered one of the most desirable communities in the state. The schools were highly rated, the crime rate was low. The neighborhood was known for being peaceful and family-oriented. The couple planned to move into the house with their 3 children after completing a few renovations. At first, everything seemed normal. Workers came and went. Neighbors introduced themselves. The future looked bright. Then Derek checked the mailbox. Inside was an envelope addressed simply to the new owner. The letter was typed, anonymous, and immediately unsettling. The writer claimed their family had been watching the house for decades. They referred to themselves as the Watcher. According to the letter, previous generations of their family had also watched the property. The writer asked whether the new owners had discovered what was hidden within the walls. They referred to the house as their responsibility, almost as if they believed they possessed some strange connection to it. Then the letter became even more disturbing. The writer mentioned the Broaddus children who had not yet moved into the home. The Watcher asked whether the house was too small for the family. They asked if the children would play in the basement. They seemed obsessed with the idea of young occupants living there. The letter ended with a chilling promise. The Watcher would continue watching. The Broaddus family was shocked, but they had no idea this was only the beginning, because soon more letters would arrive, and someone seemed to know far more than they should. Who was behind the messages, and how closely were they watching? After receiving the first letter, the Broaddus family contacted local police. Investigators advised them not to tell neighbors about the messages. They hoped to quietly identify the sender, but before long, another letter appeared. This one was even more disturbing. The writer correctly identified details about the family's children. They appeared to know the ages of the kids. They referenced them individually, and they described them as young blood. The language alarmed investigators. How was the writer obtaining this information? Were they physically watching the family, or was someone nearby providing details? As police expanded their investigation, attention turned toward neighbors. Several residents lived close enough to observe the property. Interviews were conducted, backgrounds were checked, handwriting samples were collected, but nothing produced a definitive suspect. Then came another twist. The letters suggested the writer had been inside the house, or at least knew details that weren't publicly available. The Watcher referred to renovations, rooms, and activity occurring on the property. The family became increasingly afraid. Eventually, they stopped spending time at the home altogether. Imagine owning a $1 million house, yet being too frightened to sleep inside it. Months turned into years. The investigation expanded. The FBI became involved. Forensic experts analyzed the letters. DNA evidence was examined. Potential suspects emerged, then disappeared. One neighbor became a frequent topic of discussion, an eccentric resident known for unusual behavior. At one point, investigators considered whether someone living nearby could see directly into the home. But again, no evidence was strong enough to support charges. The mystery continued, the letters kept arriving, and the person calling themselves the Watcher remained invisible. But perhaps the most shocking part wasn't what investigators found. It was what they never found. No fingerprints, no surveillance footage, no confession, no suspect, only questions. And those questions would eventually divide an entire community. Over the years, countless theories have emerged. Some believe the Watcher was a neighbor. This remains the most popular explanation. After all, a nearby resident would have the ability to observe the property regularly. They could watch renovations, monitor visitors, and gather information without attracting attention. Others believe the letters may have come from someone with a personal obsession involving the house itself. The writer repeatedly referred to the property's history, its architecture, its generations of occupants, almost as if the building meant something deeply personal. Then there's a more controversial theory. Some critics have suggested the entire story could have been fabricated. Supporters of this theory point to financial pressures surrounding the property. The family ultimately struggled to sell the house. The unwanted publicity reduced its value. However, investigators have never publicly concluded that the letters were a hoax, and the Broaddus family has consistently denied any involvement. Another possibility is that the sender was someone completely unexpected, someone with no obvious connection to the neighborhood, perhaps a former resident, perhaps an acquaintance, perhaps someone who simply enjoyed manipulating and terrifying strangers. The reality is that none of these theories fully explain the evidence. No suspect has ever been charged. No definitive motive has ever been established. And despite years of investigation, the identity of the Watcher remains unknown, which raises the most unsettling possibility of all. What if the Watcher was exactly who they claim to be? Someone who had quietly watched the house for years, waiting for a new family to arrive, waiting for someone to write to. And if that's true, how many other secrets might still be hidden behind the walls of 657 Boulevard?
More than a decade later, the Watcher letters remain one of America's strangest unsolved mysteries. A family buys their dream home. An anonymous stalker begins sending letters. Investigators search for answers. And yet, the person responsible is never identified. No arrest, no confession. No closure, only a series of terrifying letters and a house forever connected to one unanswered question. Who was the Watcher? And are they still watching? What do you think happened? Was the sender a neighbor, a former resident, a hoaxer, or someone investigators never even considered? Let us know your theory in the comments below. And if you enjoy real mysteries, unsolved crimes, and disturbing cases that leave more questions than answers, make sure to subscribe to LastKnown and turn on notifications. Because every week, we uncover another mystery that refuses to stay buried. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, sometimes the scariest monsters aren't hiding in the dark. They're hiding behind ordinary windows.